Hi, I'm Scott Humphrey, CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, and this is Leadership Live. And this week on Leadership by the Letter, the word is sacrifice. And it simply means the act of giving up something, especially for the sake of someone or something else. The act of giving up something, especially for the sake of someone or something else. That was displayed in the life of Miss Gladys Kidd. On May 2nd of 1962, she put an ad in the San Francisco Examiner that said, "I do not want my husband to die in the gas chamber for a crime he did not commit. So for any leading attorney that will take his case, I will work for 10 years as a maid, cook, house cleaner, whatever you need, free of charge." One of the leading attorneys in town, Vincent Holloman, saw that ad and felt pity on her, and so he took the case and ultimately got her innocent husband released from prison, and then refused to take the payment that she had offered, saying that getting an innocent man off of death row was enough payment for him. Gladys was willing to make a sacrifice because she loved her husband so much and she wanted justice for him. Listen, we talk about sacrifice and leadership. It's not very popular because we all like leadership that's easy, but the truth is leadership is all about sacrifice. In fact, I would tell you that leadership that costs you nothing usually accomplishes the same. If leadership doesn't cost you anything, then it usually benefits you and others very little, if any. This is displayed best in the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. If you look at the 56 men who put their life on the line by signing that Declaration of Independence, 5 were captured and tortured, 12 had their homes ransacked and burned, 2 lost sons in the Revolutionary Army, 2 had their sons captured in the military battles, 9 died in the war or from wounds related to the war. Carter Brandon had his ship sunk by the British, and he had to sell everything that he had and died in poverty. Thomas Nelson had his home taken over by the British and ordered George Washington to fire on his home. He died bankrupt. John Hart was at his wife's deathbed and was forced to leave because the British came in. His 13 children were scattered abroad. He lived in caves and forests for over a year, finally coming back to find out that his wife had died and all 13 of his children had vanished. He died desolate with nothing. These are people who sacrificed because they saw a greater good, and we are better because of that. Listen, great athletes have said this for years. You talk to Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt, and they would tell you that the victory was not won on the day of the competition, but the victory was won in all the hours and years of sacrifice that they had made to be good at their craft. And if you're not sacrificing to be good at what you do, then you won't be able to win on the day of competition. There's a story that's told of a young girl named Lucy, about 10 years old. She had a rare blood disease, and the only hope of her living was to find a donor who had the antibodies to fight that disease. Her 5-year-old brother was the only one who they knew who had overcome that disease and had the antibodies. So they decided that that was the best route, and the doctor sat down with this 5-year-old boy and tried to explain in the best terms that he could what was going to happen. And finally, he just looked at him and he said, "Would you be willing to give your blood so that your sister could live?" He hesitated for just a moment, and then he said, "Yes, if it will help her live, I'll do it." And so they hooked the transfusion up from him to her, and he began to watch as the blood came back into her face, and he could see the life coming back into her. And as that happened, a very sad look came on his face, and the doctor said, "Son, what's wrong?" And the little boy looked at him and he said, "When will I die?" See, he believed when they asked the question, "Would you be willing to give your blood for your sister?" that they were going to take all of it. And yet he was still willing to do that. As leaders, we're rarely, if ever, called upon to make that kind of sacrifice. In the military, they're willing to give their lives so that we can have freedom. But rarely do we face that challenge. Where could you be sacrificing to make a difference? Because sacrifice is what leadership is all about. Leadership that costs you nothing accomplishes the same. Now go out there and lead.